Welcome to the third episode of the Rational Response Squad. I am one of your hosts, Brian Sapient.
And I am Rook Hawkins.
And I am Yellow number 5.
And we are the Rational Response Squad. I don't know if many of you know this. We haven't really addressed this much in past shows, but the Rational Response Squad is a three-headed beast. Myself, I am a philosophy expert. I love debate, politics, activism, and I'm a general hole filler. My buddy Rook over here is a biblical expert and ancient texts buff. And Mike is a chemical engineer and microbiologist. And between us, we think we pretty much have the world wrapped around our fingers.
Pretty much it.
There isn't any problem you guys can't throw at us that we can't either research or figure out or debate and come up with the right angle to address it. And that's what this show is all about. Individually, you might talk to us and one of us might seem like a total idiot on any particular topic. But when you get the three of us together, don't screw with us. We're an unstoppable force.
Pretty much, yeah.
On today's show, we have in a few moments our friend Sam Smith, a 14-year-old atheist out of our home state of Pennsylvania who recently decided to not stand up when the pledge was said in his classroom. And we're going to get the whole inside scoop from him instead of reading it out of the newspapers that
we're going to be
bordered on slandering him. So
yeah, we will be reading a bit out of those papers. And
oh, good old Mr. Cock.
Mr. Cock. Well, you'll be hearing Mr. Cock's reaction to Sam a little bit later on the show.
And I am Rook Hawkins.
And I am Yellow number 5.
And we are the Rational Response Squad. I don't know if many of you know this. We haven't really addressed this much in past shows, but the Rational Response Squad is a three-headed beast. Myself, I am a philosophy expert. I love debate, politics, activism, and I'm a general hole filler. My buddy Rook over here is a biblical expert and ancient texts buff. And Mike is a chemical engineer and microbiologist. And between us, we think we pretty much have the world wrapped around our fingers.
Pretty much it.
There isn't any problem you guys can't throw at us that we can't either research or figure out or debate and come up with the right angle to address it. And that's what this show is all about. Individually, you might talk to us and one of us might seem like a total idiot on any particular topic. But when you get the three of us together, don't screw with us. We're an unstoppable force.
Pretty much, yeah.
On today's show, we have in a few moments our friend Sam Smith, a 14-year-old atheist out of our home state of Pennsylvania who recently decided to not stand up when the pledge was said in his classroom. And we're going to get the whole inside scoop from him instead of reading it out of the newspapers that
we're going to be
bordered on slandering him. So
yeah, we will be reading a bit out of those papers. And
oh, good old Mr. Cock.
Mr. Cock. Well, you'll be hearing Mr. Cock's reaction to Sam a little bit later on the show. Oh, hey, Sapient. I noticed you have a new bumper sticker on your car.
Yeah, I do have a new bumper sticker on my car.
Where'd you get that at?
I got it at evolvefish.com. That bumper sticker is, the White House actually recently changed the War on Terror. Do you remember when they did that? It's not called the War on Terror anymore. I don't even remember what it's called. It's like you can't even look it up because I don't know what it's called. It's like the war on like jihadist fundamentalist enemies or something like that. It's something
jihad regimes.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Right, because a war on terror really doesn't make that much sense.
Right.
You know? It's like it's terror on terror, war on war.
That's exactly.
You know?
The bumper sticker says, if terrorism is a form of warfare and war terrorizes, then what exactly is a war on terror?
That makes me think. I would think about that rather deeply at a stoplight, I must say.
You kids and your arcane affections with bumper stickers.
Yes. Well, I got that sticker at evolvefish.com, one of our main sponsors. We're very thankful to have a sponsor. So check out evolvefish.com for all of your free thought-related products. They have books, cups, hats. In fact, there's a whole section of kids' books that are great. My son has a couple of free thought books that we bought there from Dan Barker. Dan Barker has a whole series there available. One of them is called Just Pretend. Another one's called Maybe Right, Maybe Wrong. And they're really a great series available at evolvefish.com. Check them out.
Sounds good. I think I'm going to do that right away.
Oh, that's good. Could you do it like maybe
quietly?
Or after the show?
or quietly, like during the show.
Because this is going to be a lot of clicking. Yeah. Let's get Sam on the show. We're probably going to be a while with Sam. And in fact, I think we're even going to try to get his mother on.
All of these news articles you were reading don't really mention the parents too much. So I want to see what her perspective is on this.
All right. Well, we'll pull Sam up right now.
If you are listening to our live stream, join us in the chat room at www.rationalresponders.com.
On the line with us now from Pennsylvania is Sam Smith, a young gentleman who refused recently to say the pledge and drew a quite a controversy in our home state
Yeah,
here.
very cool.
Sam, how you doing, man?
Good. Yes, very good.
One of the things we wanted to do here when we had you on was address some of the articles that actually piqued my curiosity into this case and what happened. First, if you could do me a favor before we get into that, just briefly explain why you were in the news.
Well, there's several reasons why I was in the news. Actually, the news people in general just said that it was a story that everyone could relate to because obviously all schools in America in America in general, do the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning. And some extremely right-wing conservative places like Nazareth, PA, where I go to school, are very into the Pledge of Allegiance because they're so patriotic, and some aren't. But that's not the point. The point is that it's a story that everyone could relate to.
And so you refused to say the pledge on what grounds?
In this sort of case, I really thought I should address the reason of the war because we're in the middle of a war, but actually there's several reasons in general why I don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. One is, of course, because of the war, and another reason is because I'm against nationalism and American imperialism, and of course, the third reason is because, for one thing, we live in a very religious country, and I'm against religion. Because I'm not against religious people. I'm against the religion in general. It's evil.
Do you believe in a God?
I could say it's evil. What?
Do you believe in a God?
Well, no.
Okay, so you're an atheist? Just clearing that up?
I'm an atheist.
Okay.
So what happened in school? How did exactly it go down? Did you just at one point decide not to stand up? Did you decide one day not to say it? What started the whole thing?
Well, in 7th grade, when the war was be reaching more of a peak, I started not saying the Pledge of Allegiance because it was just getting so ridiculous to pledge your allegiance to a country that was just murdering all these Iraqis.
No, I'm sorry.
So
Just for time reference, 7th grade for you was 2 years ago now.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 or 3, yeah.
2 years ago, okay. And at that point, did any teachers say anything to you about refusing to say the pledge?
Yeah, what was the reaction?
Yeah, actually,
the
in
teachers
8th
and students?
grade, when I didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, my teacher actually said, "Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance," and I said, "No," and she said, "Why are you standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?" And I said, "Because you are possessed by an irrational fetish for an arbitrary set of rules, boundaries, and ethnicities that you call a nation." That's what I said to her.
Wow.
And she, yeah.
I'm impressed.
That's heavy for a
That's heavy.
for a person your age.
That is.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this was when I decided. That's when I really decided that I would never stand for the Pledge of Allegiance again. So I decided that I'd have to have a line.
Right.
That kind of summed up everything. She was a very, very right-wing conservative teacher. She actually had a child in the military at that point. So she did get a little angry. I actually had to stand outside the classroom at that point. I was a little naive, so I could have fought that, but I didn't. I guess I just didn't decide to at that point.
The pledge would start. She would ask you, leave the room. You would go outside the classroom, and then what would the other students think?
The students in my class, they were very naive. I actually talked to one of the students in my class during my, I believe it was 7th period class, and I said, well, you shouldn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance either, because there's no reason to. You shouldn't pledge your allegiance to a country that's murdering all these Iraqis, and that's becoming an imperialism. And afterwards, in fact, when the teacher asked the class if they were offended, quote, by what I was doing, everyone raised their hand because they didn't. I guess they were just afraid of causing some kind of argument.
Yeah,
towards the teacher.
That's sort of like a leading question
I was
there.
very disappointed in my fellow classmates at that point.
Right.
Okay, so that was in 7th grade. And then did you stand outside your classroom that entire school year?
Yeah. I know sometimes she didn't bother to do it. I was very tired in the beginning of the day, so sometimes she didn't even notice I was there, I guess.
Uh-huh.
So it was on and off. I guess it depended on her mood.
And then during that time frame, though, there was no controversy like recently brought up. I mean, it was in the papers now.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What?
It's mostly because I didn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance all in the beginning of this year. My first period teacher during the first marking period, because I have block scheduling, so we do half of all the classes the first semester and half of all the others the next semester. So my teacher really didn't care. In fact, when I talked to her, she said, "Oh, well, I don't even care. I don't care either way if someone stands or sits." But my second semester first period teacher, I don't think she really had a problem with that. I just think that she was afraid of losing her job. So she did send me to the office. So I had to talk to the vice principal, who gave me this sheet to sign to get permission to not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wait, you had to sign a sheet? I'm sorry, go back and say that again. You had to sign something?
I had to sign a permission slip not to not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that
I
is
obviously didn't sign it,
ridiculous.
though.
Who was the first person that brought this permission slip to you? And was it something that your parents had to sign as well? Or
my parents and I had to sign it for permission for me not to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, I would take it then that the administration of the school that was making you sign this didn't know that you didn't require permission.
What they said was that there was a case a long time ago, a case where students would have to sign a permission slip to not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. But the Supreme Court shot that ruling down, so that never happened. So the school said that they didn't have updated information.
That's great.
That was their line.
A school didn't have updated information. How great is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's their job to teach, but yet they have no idea.
Right, a school is going to teach you. You have a civics class on your rights as a citizen and things like that, but
you don't even know
fundamentally ignorant of those rights.
That's great.
So
ironic. In there though, that's ninth grade. During eighth grade, what did you not stand up during eighth grade either? And was there an issue that year? And did she make you leave the class for eighth grade?
Eighth grade, yeah, that was eighth grade. All the controversy was in ninth grade.
And
which
so
is right now.
Right, and so this year in ninth grade, something happened that you needed to contact the ACLU for. That was the permission slip, correct?
Yeah.
And so they told you that you needed to get a permission slip to not say the pledge. You refused to. Yeah,
I refused to sign it.
And
so that night, I went home and I actually told my mother not to sign the permission slip because it was just a ridiculous thing to do. So I also, and my friend, who was part of LaPoco, he told me that he gave me the name of Peter Crownfield, who is also a member of LaPoco. And when I called him, he told me to call the ACLU.
I find what I find most interesting about this is that you could have just had your mom sign it. I mean, she agreed with you, as I understand, correct?
Yeah.
So you could have just had your mom sign it and been done with it, and it would have been over. The next day you would have gone to school, and it would have been done with. But you refused to have her sign because it's just that's you wanted to take a stand, and that you have rights above and beyond that. Am I correct?
Well, yeah. And it wasn't only that, but like the vice principal of the school, who someone needs to definitely put on a leash because she's causing all these controversies. She was the first cause of this. She, even when I called the ACLU and they were going to send a letter to the school, she continued to try to fight it until, of course, they received the letter. But the vice principal, I don't even think that the principal even knew about this happening. So I was actually, I'd like to thank the vice principal for causing this controversy so that
What's the vice principal's name?
Yeah, what's the vice principal's name?
Mrs. Grube.
Mrs. Grube, and she's available at Nazareth Area High School at what phone number?
I wouldn't know that.
I'm sure we can look it up online.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you're an evil, evil man.
Yeah,
I love
evil
that.
Man.
And the address of the school is?
Yes, I believe actually last year she actually confiscated a student's cell phone and then attempted to call all of his friends so that she could get information on them to use against them. So I was really surprised he wasn't sacked for that.
Yeah,
Wow.
why does this person still have a job?
It
That's
sounds
I know.
insane.
it sounds like instead of actually teaching students, they're more interested in controlling them.
Well, that is the first priority of schools, to control them and to make them future members of the capitalist society that we live in. So
Yeah,
that's really the
interesting
first
perspective.
priority of a school, not to educate, but to discipline.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think we all agree on that.
But then again, I think it also takes a special breed of person to be a vice principal. I mean, I remember my vice principals.
Oh man. Tell me.
And they're always the staunch disciplinarians and by the book kind of people. And
They're just upset they're not the principal. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
yeah,
They're all
I don't know.
disgruntled.
It might be an inferiority complex,
Yeah, they're
or
disgruntled people.
yeah. How do you even fall into that kind of line of work?
You're not quite qualified to be the principal. We have this other position over here.
This in the office
can
next to mine
assist
is
the
not quite as
principal.
big.
After the whole permission slip thing, was there any further action taken against you? Were you given detention? Were you threatened with
No,
expulsion
nothing
or
like
anything like that?
I don't think they because after they got the letter, they called the solicitor, and that was the end of that. The solicitor said that they had to get rid of that rule because it was illegal.
Right.
Right.
But the contradiction right now is that my fellow students who have been ostracizing me like every day don't see the contradiction that what they're saying in the Pledge of Allegiance every day is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But where's my liberty and justice if I need to be ostracized for my beliefs?
Exactly.
Good point. Very good
Exactly.
point.
I've always found it ironic too that word indivisible immediately follows something very divisive.
Exactly.
This concept of God, you clearly don't believe in. None of us believe it, and yet we were supposed to say it at the same time. If we don't, then we're basically dividing ourselves from the rest of the pack.
It reminds me of when Hitler was coming to power, and during his rallies, you would have these people recite basically pledges to him and to the Nazi Party. And
Actually, did you know that there was only one other country that had students say the Pledge of Allegiance in the beginning of the day, and that was Nazi Germany.
exactly, it's exactly right.
Yes.
And
Well, you guys have invoked Godwin's law. Really, this conversation is going down the tubes now. We're going to have to end this recording. Have you heard of Godwin's law before, Sam?
What?
Godwin's law
Godwin's law.
basically means once you invoke the Nazi party
Yeah.
or Hitler, that the whole conversation
argument's
is
over,
bunk.
yeah.
The argument's over. Of course, we're not like that. We dwell in reality. So
yeah, well, Brian and I are both conspiracy theorists when it comes to Bush. Mike, on the other hand, is not. So we actually feel that the government is so almost like trying to mimic what Hitler was trying to do, but it's in a different way.
Even if it's not a really obvious fascism like Hitler created, the American society today is actually quite fascist,
Oh, that's
because
true.
not all fascism
I agree
come
with
in the
that.
form of Adolf Hitler.
Right? Yeah,
This
definitely.
is a hidden fascism.
well, just for clarity, because Rook just made a comment, Mike did agree with that. So
Yeah, Mike.
Well, no,
we
I-
got you.
Hey, I like. Well, it's the conspiracy as far as like the Illuminati and the little further out stuff that I'm not on board with. But that's another matter.
have you
So-
have you heard of the New World Order before, Sam?
No, I have not.
Okay,
I might have, but you might want to clarify that.
it's basically the idea that we are forming a one world government, and the UN is actually part of it, which I don't see how that is the case, because we tend to not do anything with the UN.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We
Our
kind of disagree with
go-to
everything
policy.
they're doing. Yeah.
But what it does seem like we are doing is, we've taken over Afghanistan, we're taking over Iraq,
Well,
we're
yes.
talking about taking over
Obviously,
Iran.
what this war is about many things. It's about oil, but mainly I think it's about the fact that we're trying to dominate the Middle East with American influence. That's why we're pushing our way of life upon them, even
there's
though
no
they
doubt
didn't
about
want
it.
it in the first place. And a lot of people say that, oh, well, they should be happy because we freed them from the evil rule of Saddam Hussein. But although Saddam Hussein was a horrible person, the Iraqis still say that they were better off when they had electricity, food, and water.
Right, exactly. And I mean, if they were really in that bad of a shape, don't you think that they would have started a revolution? I mean,
Well, it's funny. That's what they did and that's when Saddam gassed his own people. Of course,
Right.
Right.
it's funny how, one of the justifications for war was, oh, he's so bad, he gassed his own people, he used chemical weapons on them. And the irony, of course, is what would happen if a group of us Pennsylvanians got together, took up
Well,
arms?
actually, there was a school once that was actually protesting something, and you know what the American military did for them?
Kent State.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
thing is that
Is that
have we gotten
was it
any
pellets?
freedom from military actions? No, we haven't. The blacks got their freedom from protest and demonstrations. Women got their freedoms from protests and demonstrations.
Right.
Even our country's founded on protests and stuff like that. Because
Yeah, Boston
we
Tea
got
Party,
our
for
freedom
example.
from dumping tea into a harbor, not
Mhm.
militaristic action. It's always been
Well,
an
no,
army
I have
of
to disagree.
people.
I have to disagree with that. Military action did play a huge part. It might not seem like that
it's-
now, but it played a major role in revolutionizing the way America came to be.
And let's give a little credit to the French there.
Yeah, definitely give a little
Yeah,
credit to the
but
French.
General
The French-
Lafayette
So,
coming in
the
here with
country was
weapons.
founded on an army of the people, not an army that was created
Right.
by the government.
And also, when you think about that, America came to be because the people were fed up with the way things were, and the people did for themselves
And
Yeah.
with help, of course. And
Oh, of
now,
course.
I think if
Of course.
if the Iraqi people would have revolted against Saddam or something like that, I think that the U.S. would be justified in helping them out.
I agree with that. Yeah.
We could have done things so much better. For example, when Saddam gassed the Kurds, if there was ever a justification to actually go into Iraq, that would have been a good one.
Reminds me of what
You
happened
know,
with Bosnia.
rather than on the false pretenses that
Right.
we actually went in.
Right.
So it's basically seems to me that the government was just looking for an excuse and happened to find one under the guise of weapons of mass destruction and whatnot. There could have been other justifications used, and the fact that we chose not to use those in the past pretty much shows you what the true intentions here were, and they're certainly
Well,
not
yeah.
freeing the Iraqi people. So
Sam, do you believe that George Bush knew ahead of time that he would not find any weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
That I'm not sure of. Possibly that could be true. It was definitely a justification for what he is now blatantly doing, which is trying to dominate the Middle East with his influence. But there might have been some sense of justification in his heart that there might have been weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Because obviously Bush is very stupid. It's not just Bush.
No
you
one's
won't get any
disagreeing.
disagreements.
He's just the figurehead. It's not just Bush, it's capitalism.
Yeah, and let me ask some more, kind of just probing where you're at conspiracy theory questions. Do you think that it's possible that 9/11 was either one, an inside job, or that two, that the government had foreknowledge of it and could have avoided it if they had taken a different
Well, I
course
don't
of
think it was
action?
an inside job. I don't think that, they said, oh, well, let's have terrorists destroy the World Trade Center so that we have some justification of moving into Iraq. I don't think that was that at all, but I do think that they let it happen. They did have previous knowledge of this happening. I believe that's actually been somewhat proven, although it is still considered a theory.
Oh no, it's
But-
been proven.
Yeah, we think we have proof, but I don't know,
It's
Mike might disagree with
the,
us. a
uh,
little bit.
well,
I
actually-
guess the thing with me that I just don't give our government nearly that much credit.
the 9/11
I don't think
Commission-
they're bright enough to pull it
Right.
off.
The 9/11
when-
Commission
well-
did come out and say that there was information available, and that.
Well, yes, there was definitely information that this was going to happen, and obviously they just let it happen because they
Right.
wanted justification for their actions in Iraq, even though it wasn't even Iraq that attacked us, but Afghanistan, and
Right.
Or even more so,
wasn't even
maybe
Afghanistan, it
Saudi
was,
Arabia.
Yeah,
Right,
well, yeah,
right.
the Saudis are
it was just
definitely
a
involved too.
terrorist group that was just happened to be from Afghanistan, but
Well,
it seems
it wasn't even Iraq. They had no connections to Afghanistan whatsoever.
that Saudi Arabia actually, if you go back to the 9/11 Commission report, there's a lot of blacked out areas, and the insiders who talk about those blacked out areas claim that a lot of that information pertains to Saudi Arabia and their involvement.
Just trying to cover it
Yeah,
up.
I don't understand why. But one thing I don't understand is that in America we're supposed to be against kings and things, but yet we are allies with Saudi Arabia, who has a monarchy. I mean, I'm not against Saudi Arabia. Well, I'm against their government, but I don't understand how we can say that we are against monarchies and yet be good allies with Saudi Arabia, which is a huge monarchy.
Oh yeah.
We have no reason to go into Saudi Arabia because all they do to celebrate New Year's is chop off the heads of gay guys.
That's
So,
pretty much. That's pretty much
true.
it. Yeah.
They have freedom and a democracy, and they're
I'm sure that
liberated already. So.
I'm sure that the government actually would prefer them to chop the heads off of homosexuals
According to
to
some
celebrate New Year's.
religious fanatics over here would seem to agree with that. So
Yeah, GodHatesFags.com.
yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah, I
our
forget.
buddy Fred Phelps.
Back to the actual point at hand, though.
Yeah, these papers.
We're looking at them. I think the first one from the Express Times is almost a little complimentary, but at the same time, it doesn't really explain. Like, well, what do you feel about the Express Times article? If I might ask you that.
Let's take it line by line.
Okay.
Let's go line by line. In fact, let me read the article out loud, and as we get to stopping points, we'll stop and analyze. So the article from this is the Pledge Times,
The Express Times.
the Express Times, written by Joseph Owens. Anytime a newspaper article focuses on the American flag or the Pledge of Allegiance or defiance shown to it by Americans, expect the topic to evoke emotions from all corners. In this case, a 14-year-old Nazareth area high school freshman decided he didn't want to stand during the school's Pledge of Allegiance each day. A teacher in the district invoked a policy requiring his parents to sign a permission slip if he wanted to continue with his snub of the morning ritual. The student, Sam Smith of Stockertown, won the support of the American Civil Liberties Union in his insistence that he has the right to ignore the call to pledge. The ACLU, God bless them, in turn confronted the school district, maintaining that the permission slip requirement was a First Amendment violation. What's the point of putting God bless
I
them
don't
in there?
understand that.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? They're saying that's his approval. Like, oh yeah, God approves of the ACLU.
Seems a little
Maybe.
bit sarcastic to me there.
Yeah,
I
But,
think that's sarcasm.
I think that is a little sarcastic.
Is that your
there.
take on that, Sam? He's
I'm not sure about that. I think that the newspapers, for one, would want to play it safe with something so delicate like this, something so political. But it does seem a little sarcastic.
Yeah,
I'm not
God
sure.
bless him. You know,
God
like,
bless him.
well, at any rate,
Yeah.
it's
You know
clearly a First Amendment
screw them is
issue.
right,
Yeah, let
man.
me say I
And-
love this writer of this paper.
Yeah.
So it goes on to say school districts by their nature aren't thrilled about taking a stand unless it involves raising taxes. A lawyer for the school district reviewed the ACLU claim and advised administrators to back off. Smith reserved his right to stay seated during the pledge regardless of whether mom or dad said it was okay. Like it or not, everyone played by the rules and democracy will live to see another day. That doesn't make Smith's protest right or the backlash of angry pledge supporters wrong. What it does is give a 14-year-old a moment to express himself in a way he believes is right, and the ACLU another chance to grandstand. I just want to
that I don't
come
agree with.
on.
That's
bullshit right
ridiculous,
there.
Yeah.
Let's. The next sentence is really the doozy. He says, with any luck, Smith will grow out of it.
Okay, this was that one. All right.
I mean, what does he grow out of? What?
Yeah.
Grow out of the right?
The
to-
rationality
yeah.
can grow out of.
Grow out of your constitutional rights, son.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We don't want you doing what you're supposed to be doing. We want you to do what we tell you to do, not what you think is.
That's what
you should
irritates
be doing.
me the most about what people say. Like they're saying that, if you don't do the Pledge of Allegiance, you're not being a pro. Obviously, I'm not very pro-American, but even so, well, I'm not anti-people of America. I'm just anti the government. But
You're just not pro-nationalism.
Right.
So, right.
I just had to clarify that.
And, and I think you are. I think you're actually what an American should be.
Right.
You actually
yeah,
understand our rights and are standing up for those rights.
Yeah, you actually take a moment to actually read the Constitution.
And not only that, but shouldn't the American people be taking a part in things like this? Should be fighting for what they think is right and wrong. Isn't that what our country was founded on?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most
And yet, the Americans today are against doing what our forefathers would have probably wanted us to do.
right.
You consider yourself a secular humanist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I consider myself the same,
I would
and
too, most certainly.
I agree with most of it. Yeah.
and in fact, I'm reminded of a bumper sticker I have on my car that says, "The world is my country. To do good is my religion," and that's how I see you. That this America isn't something that you need to pledge allegiance to and love any more
In
than
fact,
any other country.
Someone sent me actually a poem, and it was very religious, but it was very true actually. The poem talked about an angel, and he had a list of every person that loved God. And when the person that he was talking to asked him if he was on that list, he said, "No, I'm not a person that loves God. I am a person that loves my fellow man." And I thought that was very true. That I can relate to that definitely.
Right.
So let me go on with the story here. It says, if you have a 14-year-old son, I do, you'll agree that there are 100 reasons to worry about his judgment. I can think of 75 different ideas that he thinks are great and I know are stupid. If I work up a fuss over all of them, I'll do nothing else all day. Instead, I'm determined to chip away at some and recognize that he'll come to a realization of his own on others. In this case, young Smith objects to loss of life, Iraqis and Americans, in a military operation that would appear to have no end. He's right. It's terrible. The conflict in Iraq needs resolution. Our country needs leadership, and it would appear as if neither is close to happening. Unfortunately, Smith's argument has a fundamental flaw. Can't wait to hear this.
Right, yeah.
By pledging allegiance, you're saying that you're agreeing with what the country's doing, Smith said. What Smith needs to understand, and what he might come to realize at some point in his life, is that he should pledge allegiance to the flag for the very reason that he's able to disagree with President Bush and everyone else who believes we need to be in Iraq. That flag and everything it stands for provides him the ability to speak out and disagree without fear of official intimidation. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it really is
I
bullshit.
mean, that flag does nothing for it. It's a cloth. It does not provide you with the ability to speak out. The Constitution does that.
They've got their logic
backwards. That's what I've been trying to say to people that say that, I should pledge my allegiance to the country because my country gives me the right to not pledge allegiance. But
Look,
I'm not being given the right to not pledge allegiance because I'm being ostracized.
Right.
The logic is backward there.
Yeah, you know what? I went over to Europe for a little bit, and let me tell you something. You have the rights over there, if not more rights over there than you do here. I mean, heck, I was in Portugal, and that used to be the most fascist nation in Europe for a point. When they actually won their freedom, they did it, ironically, their revolution was without blood. I mean, they went ahead and talked civilly with the government, and that ended pretty much their entire, it's a communistic, but it's more like theocracy they had there, and they ended that. Now they're like one of the freest nations in all of Europe, and you can do pretty much whatever you want there. I mean, there's of course responsibility. It's more liberal. I mean, you're not going to get arrested for some of the stupid stuff you do around here. So I mean, and they don't have to pledge a flag in the morning. I mean, they respect their country, but they don't have to sit there and make a statement or make a pledge that they're going to do exactly what a good government tells them to do and be like good little citizens. And, like, how childish is that? I mean, for our government to do that, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And they're calling you a kid? I mean, he says you're going to grow up. I think this guy needs to grow up and get his head out of his ass and start realizing that it's childish to sit there and do what people tell you to do all the time. I mean, as an adult, you learn when you get older that doing what people tell you to do all the time is a bad thing to do. I mean...
Well, yeah, that's extremely true because to do what everyone else tells you to do exactly what the government tells you to do, the government is exactly like you. We're all exactly the same. We're all human beings.
Exactly.
We're all born the exact same way. So other than the fact that we might have grown up in different environments and we may just have genetically different ideas and stuff like that, we're all exactly equal. So you should really just do what you think is right. Well, not exactly what you think is right, but what is right. And you should fight for it. I believe in class war, where the working class will rise up against the ruling class, which is the rich, and then there will be no more classes. And that's when truly everyone will be equal.
So would that be, from your standpoint, like a communistic system or a socialistic system?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is the part of the letter that I think is actually almost a little complimentary towards you. At the very end, he says, of course, that's only half the battle, and Smith deserves credit for taking a stand. Intimidation of the unsanctioned variety has already fallen upon him. One reader last week admitted as much. In my day, the angry reader said, we would have kicked the crap out of him, and that would have been the end of it.
No, but then he goes on to say,
Well,
call it the death of enlightenment. I think that this guy, this Joseph Owens, would actually prefer that the world worked that way today, and it still does. The world works that way today very clearly. So, what this guy said, I mean, in my day, the angry reader said, I mean, when he was a kid, that's what he would have done. His primitive, archaic ass would have gone, hostile on you to settle his problems because obviously his brain power isn't
Right.
capable of handling the
Right.
ability to rationalize that situation. But it seems that what Joseph Owens is saying here is he's actually trying to turn around and you think it's a compliment, but I think
He says call it the death of enlightenment. I
yeah.
think that's what he's saying is that he's. I mean, this is just I don't even know, but what I got from it, it sounds like he's saying what this guy is trying to say here, this angry reader, is that he's basically trying to end thinking.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's partially why I did this, so people would think about what they're doing
Right.
when they're saying the Pledge of Allegiance. But that, what he called the death of enlightenment, that's just ridiculous because that's like saying that, for instance, a country like, say, Iraq, where people were killed because they didn't have the same point of view as their leader.
Right.
That's what they are saying that it should be like. And it's just ridiculous.
So I guess what it comes down to for me, like the pledge really to me never made much sense. I never really thought about it when I was back in school like you did. So let me just say that I find that really impressive. But I went and I stood and said the pledge when I was back in grade school and high school and everything like that. I never thought about it. Sometime, like towards the end of high school, I would sit and actually do homework during the pledge because I got it to the point my senior year where I just refused to take work home with me anymore.
Right.
But it wasn't for any sort of political or ideological reason. When I think about it now, basically by saying a pledge or by forcing one to say a pledge, you're pretty much killing the very freedoms that this pledge is supposedly
Exactly.
designed to support and to ratify and endorse.
Right.
That's
where they got it backwards.
It's a complete oxymoron.
Well, maybe one day people will understand that the pledge isn't what they actually thought. The pledge is completely and utterly a brainwashing tool. That's why they have people say it every day in the morning when they're not even thinking about what they're saying. So they become robots.
Right.
To the society that they're being trained to be puppets in.
It's amazing how that works because you need some adults to step up and fight it, but there are too many adults that are brainwashed into believing that it's a necessary tool.
Right.
They don't even understand, they can't even comprehend because of what you're saying, because they're brainwashed, the reason as to why you would want to stop it.
Right.
And it's ridiculous. Let's move on to the next article by Jeff Cox.
Jeff Cox.
Is it Cox?
Is it
Cox?
Cox?
Cox? How many Cox?
I think it's just one big cock. Jeff
Big
Cox.
Cox.
Jeff Cox.
Just Mr. Cox.
Yes, Jeff. Yeah, it's Jeff Cox.
What if his first name was Dick? What would we have to say about
Dick.
that?
He would have a big dick. He would be
Dick
a big
cock.
Dick Cox. Jeff writes, Sam Smith had a rough day in school last Thursday. Being a 14-year-old media celebrity will have that effect on you. Hey, that's you, man. You're a celebrity.
Man. Look,
I read that article, and that's just so ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't
as
want
if
to be
you
a
wanted this
celebrity.
attention.
I wouldn't care if it was me or someone else that this happened to. I just want people to see this point of view.
right.
Okay, go on.
Excellent. Yes, that morning's paper brought Sam's face, along with his inflammatory political and religious views.
Inflammatory. Ooh, big word.
Yeah. I wonder if Jeff can handle all
I don't
that
know if
cock.
he can. I don't even know.
That was an
Sorry. I'm supposed to mute the mic at this point, aren't I, when I laugh this way?
It's all right.
So, okay. Along with his inflammatory political and religious views, into the local spotlight and under the heat of some of his classmates' parents. Dude, some of your classmates' parents were saying stuff?
Well, yes. Whenever, in the beginning, everyone was saying, like, oh, my parents hate you now. My parents said this, my parents said that, because guess what?
You're making their kids smart.
What their parents say. That's another point of brainwashing.
Yes. oh, I hate that Sam Smith guy because he's so
so
wrong."
intelligent.
In the back room,
and
it's like,
he's thinking.
making
He's
you
giving my
think.
kids bad ideas.
How dare I think?
Yes.
I should just lobotomy.
Yes.
Yeah, right. They just need to like take you out and string you up like you did in the good old days.
Pretty soon,
Yeah.
Billy will want to stay out
Well,
past
yeah,
8
was one of the-
p.m.
Yeah.
like,
Was-
why don't we just hang people like we used to do?
Well,
That always, everything worked out in the end with that.
Oh yeah, everything worked out great with that. Yeah.
Well, if it was the good old days, we would have kicked the crap out of him,
Yeah, we
and that
would.
would have been the end of it. So anyway, he had 2 kids come up to him and say, "Now my parents hate you." Sam's mother, Anita Smith, was saying over the phone while her son was in school absorbing the verbal blows, along with some accolades that his comments generated. So I'm just curious, nobody beat you up over this.
No, I did, however, have a lock on we have locks built into our locker. And someone did put a lock, because we still have these little holes on my locker, and I had to go all the way up to the office and get it cut off. So that was that kind of made me mad. I almost missed my bus, but other than that, no.
Okay. Well, hey, if that happens again, you call me. I'll give you a ride, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
All right, so going on. All the hubbub came from a pitched battle between Sam and the Nazareth, PA area high school administration. The boy from Stockertown had been refusing to stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And when the school tried to make Sam get a permission slip from his parents to sit out the pledge, he refused and called in the American Civil Liberties Union, which was only too happy to plead his case.
I'm getting sick and tired of this freaking sarcasm against the ACLU.
Well, where was it there?
We're only too happy to plead
Oh, they were
his
only
case.
too happy to plead his
That's
case.
like, okay, well,
That is true. They were very happy to do this.
that might be the case,
It
but
wasn't about the ACLU at all. I just needed their support.
right.
But
a lot of the points of the ACLU, because they fight for the rights of like Nazis and
Right.
KKKs to do what they're doing. I don't think that Nazis and KKKs have the right to live, but that's another story. So I don't agree with all the things that the ACLU
Some secular humanist
do,
you
but-
are.
Yeah. Death to all those who don't agree with me. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, but I understand what you're saying with that. I don't think they deserve to die, but I think that they deserve to get like a huge.
Not have their political beliefs exist.
No, not
Yeah.
that either. I think
No.
that they should have the right to express themselves, but at the same time, I don't agree with the method in which they choose to express themselves, or for that matter, I don't agree with the
message itself.
The message itself. I don't agree with the message itself.
Right.
Let me get that very clear. I don't agree with that, but I think that they need to go under like a.
Well, it's I think it's the moment that they cross the line in breaking laws that
Right,
is
right.
real issues.
I have to disagree with that on the point that if we were to have a perfect society,
Yeah.
Then point of views that are blatantly evil, like just because fascists in general think that if everyone isn't exactly like them, they should be killed. That's why they killed millions of Jewish people in the Second World War.
Well, no, that was religious
So
based.
I don't think that point of views like that can exist. I don't necessarily think that they should die, but they shouldn't be allowed to express a point of view
But
that
isn't
is
that
blatantly evil.
isn't what you just said there sort of a fascist view itself?
Yeah, isn't that a little bit hypocritical? I mean, your views, according to 90% of the American population, is evil.
That's a good point. But I think the fact of the matter is that if you are a rational person, and if you have understanding of society, then you can see what is evil and what is right.
I think that's all
think
subjective.
That my point of view, that what I think is right, I think
Right.
that what I am thinking is the correct path.
Well, I
to
wouldn't.
choose.
I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. Free thought and rational thought are somehow wrong. If anything, we agree that it's right. But at the same time, I think you're almost doing yourself a disservice, because your entire point, your message here was to get people to think. Saying things like other people out there who have views that are dumber than mine don't deserve to
it's not
have
that they're
them.
dumber than mine.
Well,
there can be a KKK person that's extremely intelligent.
Yeah, but their
But
views
At
are.
the same time, that's a blatantly evil point of view. It's not. I'm not going out and murdering people because they aren't. They don't look exactly like me.
Well, that's
I'm
what
not
that's what-
going out and
Well, no,
That's what
burning
Mike is
down
saying.
people's houses.
Right. That's what Brian
and
Mike
of
was saying.
course you would never say that the KKK or anybody had the right to kill over their views or something like
Of course
that.
not.
They're
Well, yeah.
they're still entitled to hold them
Right.
regardless of how wrong we think they are
Well,
or how ridiculous we think they are.
it's the human ability to be able to hold a point of view, but at the same time, I don't think that people should be able to have. Obviously you can't stop someone from having a point of view, but even so, the KKK is teaching this point of view to people and infecting society with this point of view, and that's why I don't think that they should be allowed to do it, is to express it.
Okay.
Because just because it's an infection, I have nothing against thinking,
Okay.
thinking and having a point of view. I'm against infection of a point of view.
Right. I think that we can pretty much agree. All of us here obviously are not KKK supporters, or for
I
that
hope
matter,
not.
neo Nazis. We're definitely not. If anything, that should killing other people because they don't believe the same way you do is an irrational precept, and that's one of Hammurabi's laws, and we just won't break them. So, but when it comes down here, this is great. I love this part. Ready? He's against the Iraq war because it was launched under false pretenses. He thinks President Bush lied to the American people. Only extreme right-wing conservative Republicans favor the war and support Bush. Blah, 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 blah.
Wah,
This
wah,
guy
wah.
needs to shut the fuck up. All right?
Did he really say
Seriously.
blah,
He
blah,
wrote
blah?
he wrote out
Yeah,
5
he
blahs.
literally wrote
Is it
blah
there?
blah blah
As if-
blah blah.
As if by saying blah, 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 it's discrediting your argument. Okay? Like, he doesn't even try to dispute it.
That's just ridiculous.
He's like, and then he says, pretty standard stuff, straight out of the liberal Democratic playbook. Come on now. I mean, seriously. If you're
How
going
can someone possibly say that?
well,
I mean, that's just
Well,
ridiculous.
Jeff
That's like
Cox
saying-
said it.
that's
yeah,
like
Mr.
just
Cox did say
saying
that.
plain out that you are extremely
That's-
ignorant.
That's a lot of blahs from one big cock.
Yeah.
So we skipped over part of it though. It said Sam's civil disobedience stems from strong opposition to the war in Iraq. He doesn't believe in nationalism, and while he holds no hatred for America, he also finds no particular pride in being one of its citizens. I'm curious, do you have any pride at all in being an American? Like, he's trying to say
Well,
that you don't
My
at all.
philosophy is that we, as human beings, are not born and should not be a citizen of one country. We should be citizens of the world because that's where that's our planet. We are citizens of the world, not of one country. If we are to pledge allegiance to anything, it should be mankind,
Right.
Right.
not one country.
I don't think we should pledge allegiance even to that. I think that being a human being should be where it stops. We all need social groups to cling to a little bit, but other than that, I mean, why pledge allegiance?
Well, it's not
to
really
that?
a social group. It's just the fact that because we're human beings and that we're all exactly the same, we're the dominant species on Earth. We should have the respect, and because we are just all human beings, we live to communicate and live with other human beings. So if you are to pledge allegiance to anything, it should be mankind itself,
Right.
because of a hope for a better world.
Well, is that more of a pledge, or would you say that's more of
It's
an
not a pledge.
appreciation?
It's just a thought. It's
Right.
not like and it's not like if we were all one world instead of a bunch of countries, there wouldn't be no pledge of the world in the morning day of school.
Right. It would just be all
It
about
would just be
progression.
the thought.
Right.
Right.
It would just be the thought that we are all human beings and that
Right.
we should help other human beings. It's not that it would be
More of a
something
healthy
to say.
philosophy.
Right.
So-
Right. More of a
It's
lifestyle.
a philosophy,
Right.
not a poem.
Okay, so let me go on here. It says, oh, and to top it off, he is a teenage atheist.
I think you should make that publicly announced right now. Just say, I am a teenage atheist, and fuck all you people who hate that.
This is what I'm proud of.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm a teenage atheist, and
Hi, my name
Yep,
is Mike.
that's it.
I'm an atheist too.
I'm an atheist.
I've been an atheist for
Hi, Mike.
years
Yeah, 'cause
now.
everyone,
How are you?
people that are religious have to understand that they were all born atheists.
Exactly. Exactly.
God's not walking down the street, I can tell you that.
It's
so
a
you have to
default
be taught
position.
religion
Yeah.
in order to be religious.
It's a default position.
I was shown a religious side of society and a non-religious side of society when I was growing up, and I chose non-religion. I chose to be an atheist
Ding,
because
ding, ding, you win.
rational.
Tell him what he's won.
How does he
Simeon.
won?
You have won a life
never
of
born an
honesty.
Yeah, because you're never born an you're always born an atheist. You have to be taught religion.
Right. Exactly.
So we'll go on here. It says, while Sam did in fact win his battle against the school, it's not hard to imagine why he has been the target of such vitriol and, yes, hatred from other kids' parents.
Well, probably from articles from like this, you dumbass.
Yeah. that was kind of a funny comment, Sam said after putting in a hard day at school and then watching a story about himself on the news that evening. A lot of people just do what their parents tell them to do. They just go along with what they have to say. No doubt that Sam will never...
Is this coming up that I'm actually mimicking my parents myself?
Oh,
'Cause
no.
I
It
got a
hasn't.
donation that said that
No,
on Valentine's Day.
it's actually not. And
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
he wasn't going that route. And, what he's saying, of course, is that no doubt that Sam will never fit into that category. He actually is going the opposite way, saying you will never, just do what your parents tell you to do, which is gigantic compliment, whether he knows it or not.
Yeah.
Of course, I
That
think...
is a gigantic compliment because I'm going to be a child for how many more years?
Just a few.
Only
Yeah.
a couple.
4 maybe.
And afterwards, I'm never really. I'm a human being, so in the end, I can do whatever the hell I want because I'm a human being. I have the free will that all other human beings have. Even
Yes,
if they
God
don't know it
gave
or
you
not.
free will.
God gave
That
you
is
And
free
right.
will. That's
although
right.
I
Yeah.
love my parents and I respect my parents, in the end, I have total control over myself.
Eh.
So I can have the point of view that I wish.
Awesome. Awesome.
And the funny thing is, Sam, you seem to want to not have followed your parents, to have, that when people accuse you of that, noticed it a little bit in our talk before. But I mean, you've told me your parents are atheists, and
Yeah, there.
Oh wow.
there's nothing wrong
Not at
with
all.
following your parents on certain things.
Well, there's nothing wrong with following your parents because a lot of parents are very wise.
Yeah.
And
Actually, I disagree with that.
But to gain knowledge,
I
you have to take.
I
you
think
have to
most
take
parents are
pieces.
dumbasses and need to be re-educated. And
Well, there's
I
a
think
lot of
only
parents like
a very few amount of parents are intelligent.
Well,
I think
well,
Sapien
okay,
falls
I
into
would-
that, and I
that.
think
My parents are wise. How about that?
I like that. That's fair enough.
And what I've done is I've taken pieces of what my parents have said and what I've learned through books and reading and talking to other people, and I put it together, and I've taken out what's true and what's right.
Right.
And that's my point of view. That's how everyone has to get what they think. They cannot take the knowledge. And actually, I believe a Greek poet, was it Archimedes? It might have been Plato, actually. He wrote a poem and it described all these people living in this jail cell, and their heads were clamped to the wall, so they were and their eyes were pulled back so they could only look at one thing or one other person. And that described ignorance and how people, a lot of the time, just listen to one person or just listen to what they think. And it described if you can break out of those chains and climb to the top of the hill, then you will be enlightened. And that tells that you have to take pieces of what's true and what's right and piece them together, and then you will be enlightened. I'm obviously not enlightened. Very few people are enlightened, but
Right.
I'm closer to it than most people.
Right.
Right. And you're on your, at least you're
well
making
on
the
your way.
attempt.
Well on your way
Yeah.
there.
And you're basically you're taking stuff from your parents, stuff that you come up with on your own, piecing it together to have some sort of coherent worldview and understanding of how things work.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's really all one can aspire to do. And I think you're well on your way to that. Move on with the article here. Where are we at?
we would be at
What does Mr. Cock have to say next?
Yeah, no, it's he's established.
When you're reading these articles, you can really tell that the ones from people that are pro my point of view are much wiser and go on real facts than these people that just blatantly mock me.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so it says he's established himself as a full-fledged rebel with little respect for the societal conventions that most kids and their parents find to be routine.
Ooh,
Yes, no respect. Sam.
scary.
His throwback secular humanism and card-carrying liberalism suit him just fine, regardless of how others feel.
Dude,
Your card carrying.
where does
liberalism.
one get this card?
I
Yeah,
know.
I need that card.
I want that card too.
I actually do have an ACLU card in my wallet, but
Me too.
I am a card-carrying member of the ACLU. But liberalism card, I haven't heard
I
of,
didn't
heard
know
of that one.
Yeah.
What is throwback secular humanism?
Yeah. What the heck is that? Is that like
You've heard that before?
almost
or-
secular
No.
humanism? Like, is that partially secular humanism?
It's like back when we were ancient and we didn't have belief in God, so everybody was secular humanist. I mean, what the
Right.
hell is throwback secular humanism?
Like Paul Kurtz is basically the guy that came up with that school of thought,
Oh,
that
yeah,
philosophy that put it all together, and that was 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's
how far back are you throwing
can't go
things
that
here?
back.
and secular humanism is only growing in size every day.
I know.
You know, it's
It's only getting bigger. I mean,
it's not like something that's old school that we've all forgotten about. It's something that more and more people are finding every day to be,
Yeah, it's not like that. Whatchamacallit? What's
Church.
it called?
Church.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, church. It's not like that place.
So, Sam, here you go on to pretty much say something that I would totally agree with. I don't think of myself as an American, he says. I think of myself as a human being.
Best quote in the entire.
Yeah.
I think
It's
best
nice
quote.
they
in
even said that.
well,
Yeah, there you
well
go.
Yeah,
put.
it's really, when they came out with the school newspaper, I was really happy that they put that quote in it. Every single other part of the school newspaper was right-wing conservative. I was still really glad that they put that in.
Yeah.
So it goes on to say, but by judging by public response so far to the controversy, there are those who think of him as something less than human. What the?
Yeah, like this part here.
What?
Letters.
There are those who think of you as something less than human.
Listen to this. Letters in the local papers have been decidedly against his position, just like Mr. Cox.
Yeah.
Mr. Cox deserves the asshole award.
It says a reaction he's likely to face often through his life should he hold true to such maverick beliefs. And you know what? That, unfortunately, I'd have to agree with. And that's
Yeah.
why we have our show.
Exactly.
Because
We
being in the minority, man, I mean, people do look at us differently. They do have oddball reactions to some of the stuff we would say,
What's funny is the Christians would have us believe that they're persecuted.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, they
I
don't
love
know
that.
what persecution is, man. They
Yeah,
haven't known that since the Lions.
Till you've lost a job for being an atheist, as I have.
Oh, same here. Same
yeah.
here. Or you've
Don't
you've
talk
lost,
to me about persecution.
You've lost women. You've
Yeah.
lost
Been
education.
alienated from friends
Oh my
and family.
Gosh, ridiculous.
Yeah. So,
Ridiculous. Yeah.
but watch out for those maverick views there.
Oh yeah. Watch
So-
out. There's
Definitely.
Okay, so it goes on to say, at its core, there's nothing particularly illuminating about what Sam has to say. This motherfucker.
yeah.
Sam, I tell you, man, you have brought illumination to the
You-
word
yeah.
illuminate.
Yeah,
Okay.
you really have. A 14-year-old that thinks like you is a very hard thing to find today. It really is.
Thank you.
And
Actually, someone actually sent. He worked at some kind of college, and he sent me a letter, and he said this guy was 90 years old, and he said that, Sam, I'm so happy for you. It took me 40 years to come up with the conclusion you've come up with.
yeah, I've
and
heard
I'm
that.
like,
We hear that a lot.
Thank
It's
you.
it's good that actually, as Sapien was saying, it's why we have the show. I mean, we are here to bring rationality to the irrational, and I think you're doing that, and it's a very big.
Oh, yeah,
very big part.
As normal, when we have very rational guests on, you will be named a honorary Rational Response Squad member today.
yes.
Thank you.
The article goes on to say, it's always a tricky business figuring out just how much weight to give to the opinions of teenagers, especially when it comes to politics, religions, and matters of the heart. More often than not, people that age base their beliefs on unvarnished opinion and the rash impulsiveness of the youth.
You should just stick with one opinion, the opinion that you thought of your entire life, and not change it at all. That's ridiculous.
Oh, isn't everyone's viewpoint based on their opinion? Like, isn't that what it is.
I have to agree with him that oftentimes teenagers are like that. But I mean, I think that in Sam's case, you can
He's not.
see that.
He's
You
not.
know, Sam. I mean, what made you? You know, you obviously you were at a point where you realized something was up with this pledge. What did you do? Did you go online and research it? Was this just come from the heart? You know, where did you where did you come up with some of this that led you to all the controversy over the last few years?
Well, I did read a couple stories about it, and my brother, who he's actually going to Temple University right now, and he's also very political too. He taught me and showed me a lot of articles about this and stuff, and through all those articles and talking to people and my brother, I came to the conclusion that the pledge definitely something was up with that.
Was it out of nowhere a brain twitch, a rash impulsiveness moment that you just decided, screw that pledge, I'm not going to say it anymore? Or how much time did you spend behind this decision?
At one point, some people come to the point where they start to think. When you're really small children, like, you don't think much. Like, when I was a child, I thought that every other place in the world was exactly like where I lived right now. I didn't think about things. But then, as I progressed and got wiser and got older, I started to think more. I started to learn things about the world. And then, from that, I stopped saying the Pledge of Allegiance because of what I learned.
Looking at both of these articles, comparing them, it's funny because the first one makes you out to be something different, and then the second one seems to be making you out to be something of the same. You know, it's like almost like they want to make it sound like you're the same as every other 14-year-old. You're irresponsible
that's
and
ridiculous, because if I'm the same as every other 14-year-old, then everyone in my school has to be really stupid because I'm being ostracized every day.
exactly,
And
and
if
that's
these people have
my
the
point.
same, if everyone has the same point of view as me, then
I think
then I'm really confused.
I don't think it's the same in the sense that it's the same point of view as much as it's the same that
You're like
young people are
same
rash,
sort of.
impulsive,
right. He's
you know,
trying to make it sound like you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah,
and neither do the other
I'm
kids. Is his point?
But
Dealing out information.
right, and at the same time, you're saying you're so different. Like, okay, he can't be different in the
I
same.
just want to be different.
You know,
like if someone that is an emo and wears all black and becomes like bi and
let's just
wears
clarify.
really high shoes and is a vegetarian because they want to be different.
Yeah, for the 40-year-olds that are listening into our show, what's an emo?
An emo is a slang term for emotional, like someone that wears all black and is very sad about things like, oh, my girlfriend dumped me, my life sucks so badly, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
pretty standard stuff out of the emo playbook.
Of course, I don't like to label people, but obviously people like to label themselves to be different, so I'm just taking it off that.
Right.
Yeah, we know.
We know. We're making fun of Mr. Cock here.
Okay, so the article goes on. Let's see. So while there's some comfort in seeing a thoughtful 14-year-old take a skeptical view toward the things that conventional wisdom sometimes holds too close to its bosom, there's also something sad about this particular case. First of all, I don't find anything sad about this case.
Not at all.
I'm like, Sam's giving me a little energy this week.
Yeah.
All right, so what's that, Sam?
I said when this started up, when I finally discovered that almost everyone in my school was right-wing conservative, I was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna weep when I get home for all of these people.
Yeah, there's this something sad about the case here.
Yeah.
We find out how many people in your school have no effing clue. Very sad indeed. Sam Smith, it goes on to say, Sam Smith is an intelligent young man who unfortunately seems to know only what he doesn't believe in, not what he does. This is the doozy. This is just as bad as the last article.
Yeah.
So, hopefully you'll grow out of it. You're gonna have to talk on this for a minute, Sam. It's just to read it one more time in case the audience didn't get it. It says Sam Smith is an intelligent young man who unfortunately seems to know only what he doesn't believe in, not what he does.
Wow.
Just give me a couple things you believe in.
More enlightenment from Mr. Cox.
I believe that people should not pledge their allegiance to one country, but they should be citizens of the world because we're all human beings. I believe that, I'm on rational response, so I'll say this. I believe that there is no God. That's another belief. I believe that our society is a hidden fascism, not a blatant fascism like what Adolf Hitler created, but a hidden one. I think that'll do it.
Yes, I think something extremely arrogant about what he wrote here. This is why I really think this guy is a big cock.
Cock. He's a cock.
How the hell does he know? He didn't ask you, or do you remember him asking you? This guy personally interviewed you, correct?
Did he?
Maybe
he might have
not.
been the person. Did he?
I don't know.
Might have. He might have been someone that called me.
I see.
Which newspaper was this in?
It's the let's see. This is the Inquirer.
Yeah, this is the guy. In fact, when I wasn't here at the time, so when he was talking to my mother, if this is the same guy, and he was the first one to say, "Is your son an atheist because you are?"
Wow.
So yeah, I think this is the guy.
Yeah. So, but
Of
I mean,
course, the contradiction is that you cannot be an atheist because someone else is. You can only be religious because someone else is.
Right. Exactly.
oh, that's funny. Jeez, I
Yeah.
never even thought of it like that. You can only be taught religion from your
Yeah,
parents,
because
not atheism. You
Jesus
can't.
isn't walking down the street.
You just, even though I
you
knew,
can
of
only
course,
believe
you're
in
born
something
atheist.
If someone teaches it to you.
But I've never
Right.
heard the argument made like that. That's a
Right.
really good argument.
How do
Yeah.
you really teach non-belief?
Yeah, it's a
You know,
negative. You can't
How do
teach
you
negative.
teach
that's why I don't
somebody
think
to
that
not
atheist
believe in Santa
That's why
Claus?
I don't think
Yeah,
atheist should
exactly.
be a word, because that's like saying that you're a non-alchemist. Are you an alchemist?
Right, exactly.
You're not an alchemist, right?
No.
Then are you a non-alchemist? No, you're not a non-alchemist. So if you're not religious, then are you a non-religious person? No. So that's why I don't think that atheist should be a word. And if someday, perhaps, if there is no more religion, because perhaps everyone will be a little more enlightened, atheists will have no purpose anymore.
Right.
Therefore, it will not exist.
That's some very, very intriguing thought.
Right. It's something you don't think about. You know, an atheist is really only defined in terms of the
Someone who
theist.
lacks the belief in the God.
Yeah,
Right,
it's only
yeah.
defined in
So,
the mind of someone that is religious.
Right.
Because they, being an irrational person, need a word to characterize and label someone that isn't religious.
Wow.
And that thus derives atheist.
only 14 years old, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So let's go on. The article then states, and while rejecting God and country might seem fashionable to him now, I got to stop at the comma. I can't even get through a sentence. And while rejecting God and country might seem fashionable to him now, this is like the people where they say, oh, people choose to be gay.
Yeah, it's like this.
How would
Yeah.
you choose to be an outcast? Choose to be the black sheep? Choose to be different from everybody
This
just
is some
because
kind
it
of
causes
fad.
controversy?
When
Yeah.
has it ever?
It's fashionable. It's
It's a
cool
fad,
to
yeah.
be the totally different guy who nobody likes because he's like got some crazy views that are like all scary,
Yeah.
and
In
like
the
make
school,
you
it's
think.
conservative, mind
Yeah.
the way. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
his way of
it's
being
real
cool.
fashionable to
Yeah, it's a fad.
to be an atheist in a school with more than 90% of the people being theist.
Don't you
Yeah,
know
I'm
this,
sure.
this is in right now. Being an atheist is in.
Yeah, it's in.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
in.
only did it for the
Honestly,
chicks.
It's like on
It's
Verizon.
got to be like
Yeah.
a Aeropostale thing, Got to be like the newest style.
Yeah, you go buy your No God shirt at Abercrombie and Fitch.
I can't really talk right now because I'm wearing an Aeropostale hoodie. So.
Okay, so it says, that while rejecting God and country might seem fashionable to him now, there's likely to be a price to pay somewhere down his life's long road. Now, as jerky
Is that
as
a
that sentence
threat?
is, that is
really,
kind of a
it
threat.
does sound. It's like because the
Again, you
freaking
can't-
newspapers like this that post this kind of shit.
But you kind of have to agree with it. I mean, I don't want to agree with it, but
Well,
there
it is
are some
true.
prices to pay in society
I
for.
know,
yeah.
there is a price to
being an
pay for
atheist.
being an atheist, right? But you have to know how to deal with those prices too. I mean, you have to know how to deal with things in order to live reasonably and a happy life.
Yeah, at the same time, there's a price to pay. There's a bigger price to pay by being a person who just believes in things because somebody told you to believe in it. Or,
In fact, I think that's even more of a price to pay because you're not only being dishonest to everyone around you, but to yourself. And
Oh,
I think
and in
that
fact-
that's the hardest, the biggest price to pay right there is that you have to lie to yourself every day in order to
and
go on.
not only the mental price to
That's
pay,
true.
but look at somebody who goes to church. There is a literal
Oh,
dollar monetary price to
10%.
pay.
Not
Off
even
the top.
dollar, but,
Yeah,
but time,
before taxes.
time price.
Time, you've got time.
How many days of your life do you go to church?
Well,
if you think
thankfully
about-
zero.
On us,
But
yeah, but I mean, a religious person, you need to think about that. And people that go every day or every other day to church. I mean, come on now, you're wasting all that time. We could be home doing something productive for society.
Yeah.
I mean, come up with a cure for cancer.
That's
You know,
true.
well, of course, these people could never think that far. But you know, like some of these people who are semi-intelligent or intelligent but not reasonable.
There are some rational theists out
Oh,
there.
most definitely.
Not any of the born again Christian types, of course.
Of course not. But there are a few out there, and they could be spending their time, rallying people to a real cause, like for example, the environment. Finding cures for disease and helping AIDS victims over in Africa. I mean, doing real missionary work, not like what they're supposedly doing, where you have to like follow their religion or they don't give you food or clothing. I mean,
Yeah, in fact, I was talking to a teacher of mine one day where there was some sort of religious hubbub in my computers and careers class. So I got into it, and I was like, oh, well, here are my three things, because I like to explain things on layman's terms just so people can understand it.
right.
Either there is a God, either there is no God, which is the most rational thing, there is a God and he's not all-powerful, or there is a God and he is all-powerful, therefore making him
an asshole.
Because
pretty much, yeah.
There, I win.
Yeah, that's what is it? Because it reminds me of Epicurus.
Right.
But yeah, that's good. You brought that up with your which teacher?
No, there was some in computers and careers class. I don't know how it started, but some people in my class started talking about religion, and it was back and forth stuff. So I just came in because I was bored.
That's what people like us usually do. We kind of sit around and let the Christians argue with each other for a while, and then we're like, yeah, what the fuck? We'll throw in my stuff too.
So I find this last sentence appalling. So if you forget where we were talking about the fact that you reject in the last sentence that you reject God and country, and that might seem fashionable. The next sentence is the price that you will pay. It will happen the day that you realize that he needs both. Let me actually just read the sentence. It says that will happen the day he realizes he needs both in ways he can't even imagine right now. And
Wow.
I'm just appalled by that statement because
how old are we all now?
Well, so I was right. It is a threat.
That reminds me.
It's a threat. When he comes at you with a gun and puts it to your head, then you'll know you need them both, because he'll tell you need them both.
Yeah,
you
need God and country, bitch, now, or I'm going to shoot you. I mean,
Right,
that's what
exactly.
it
That
sounds like.
reminds me of something that someone said. Some of my class said that when I said that everyone's born an atheist, they said that, well, everyone dies religious because when you die, then you want to go to heaven, so you have to be religious. And I'm like, no, not at all.
No, that's a beautiful fairy tale.
But Sam, you don't know. You haven't been there yet.
Yeah, right.
When
That's
you're
the
on
same
your
thing with the
deathbed,
spaghetti
you'll
monster,
think
which is
different.
very
Yeah,
recursive, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, I actually
monster.
believe in the spaghetti monster. I'm a pastafarian to the fullest. I take off every
Yeah,
Friday.
it's
I keep the Sabbath
It's
holy.
like, hey, you can't prove that the spaghetti monster doesn't exist, just
Right.
like you can't prove that God doesn't exist.
He even has
I
a holy
believe
book.
Spaghetti monster.
Right.
That's my religion.
Yeah,
That's actually my wallpaper.
you the whole thing about how you need God and country more than you can even imagine right now is ridiculous. I mean, there's plenty of other countries. You've just admitted to yourself that you
There's
think of
plenty of
yourself
other
as a
gods,
citizen
too.
of Earth. There's plenty of other gods, right? Exactly. But there's really no.
And that's what makes me really mad, that when people say, oh, this is the greatest country in the world, you need this country. Have they been to any other country in the
Right.
world?
Most no.
Oh, well, we're better than Ethiopia. They're starving in Ethiopia. Well, are we better than France, Germany?
UK.
I've been to Spain. That's pretty nice. Spain.
Italy.
No one has been to any.
I got no
any
problems
other
with Amsterdam.
countries.
Yeah, right,
They know that
Amsterdam's
we're the
pretty
greatest
good.
country in the world.
Yeah, they think that because at one time we might have been, but that's not the case anymore.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
people believe in God too. It's something they do to make themselves feel better,
Yeah,
and
it
that's
makes
why
them
they
feel
say that
special.
America is the greatest country on earth. It makes them feel
special.
better. It's
It's nice
totally
to say you're on
subjective.
a winning team.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally
Because
subjective.
It enforces the fact that they have meaning, I guess.
Right.
I mean, everybody,
The
because
greatest
they can't
country in
find
the
it for
world.
themselves.
majority of people in every country in the world believe that they live
Right.
on the greatest country.
Yeah, if you go to Russia,
That is
that's
pretty.
why they call it
probably
Mother
true.
Russia.
Iraq 10 years ago, they believed they lived in the greatest country on
Mhm.
earth.
Yeah.
You know,
And the thing is that if we're the greatest country in the world, in America, then why are we paying $500 billion in protection? If we have to pay that much in protection, why should we have to pay that much in protection if we're so great anyway?
Right.
And we don't have free health care like
well,
Canada.
freedom isn't free. I've heard Sam make a great argument for this. I'm going to let you make it, Sam. I think it was you. And I'll begin. I'll be the conservative. Freedom isn't free, Sam.
freedom is free, because if we are truly just human beings and we are citizens of the world, not one country, then we are born free. No one can take that freedom away from us, not even if they kill us.
And they
So-
can't charge us
Because
for
they
it.
want to be in power.
And what was it that you said has a price?
Oppression costs money, because it doesn't cost any money to be free. It costs money to oppress people. It costs
Costs
money
over $1 trillion
for
to
the
oppress people.
leading class to oppress the working class.
Right. Well, it costs
That's
even.
my definition of war. War is when the ruling class makes the working class fight other working class people to make the rich richer. That's my definition of war.
We are at the point now where we're gonna have to pull Mom on the phone and wrap up. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and put Mom on the phone with us now.
You're listening to the best in free thought media. It's freethoughtmedia.com.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
All right.
Hello, hi. Is this Anita Smith?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Okay.
What do you think about Sam's recent stand? Are you proud of him? And what are your thoughts?
I'm very proud of him. I think that it turned into a media blitz, and I was surprised that it turned into such a media blitz. But I'm proud that he took it on himself and was willing to stick it out, because that's a tough thing for a kid to do.
Oh, no doubt about
I
it.
agree. Now, two of the articles that we just read sort of paint Sam as the rebellious teenager. Would you say
not
that
true,
he
though.
fits that description at all?
No.
Or
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
I didn't think so. He's just, probably like a normal kid, you would say.
He's
But-
principled, though.
Right, exactly.
Rebellious teenagers do drugs and drink.
Right.
Right.
Sam doesn't do that. Sam just sits for the pledge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
right.
somehow that makes him a worse person than someone who shoots up with a needle every day before class.
Well, I don't know what a rebellious teenager is, anyway, really. I don't think what he did was rebellious
I don't
at
think
all.
it was either. No, I think it was very
I think
reasonable.
he took a position and stood by his position.
Right.
And I don't think that that's particularly rebellious.
Growing up, was Sam taught about different religions at all, or in your household life, did you just not bother him with that?
Nazareth is,
Very conservative.
well, it's Christian, pretty
Right.
much.
Very, very churches all over the place, and
Right. So,
Well, what is
Well, my kids
Nazareth?
went to
Come on,
nursery
guys.
school.
Yeah, right.
It's
The
called-
town is
it's
named
called
in Nazareth.
Nazareth,
all my kids went to nursery school in a church because that's the only place they had nursery schools.
right.
So they were all exposed to religion because they went to schools in I'm not anti-religion in any case, but
Oh, most atheists, I would say, most atheists that I know aren't. They're actually just anti what religion does.
well, some religions, yeah.
Right.
They don't like being shoved.
I mean-
They don't like their God being shoved down your throat.
Right.
Believe in this, or you're not as good as me. That type of
Right.
thing. Right.
So anyway, so they all went to Christian nursery school, so they all said grace and did all that stuff, and they did it. I mean, so they were kids who are not raised with religion are usually exposed to religion. Kids
Right.
who are raised with religion are not exposed to not having a religion, and they certainly had plenty of exposure to religion.
Right.
We're in
It's
Nazareth,
Sort of unavoidable, in Nazareth especially, and the country as a whole.
right? And most of their friends go to church, and they've been in church because they've been to funerals and weddings. And my kids had more exposure to religion than other kids have had non-exposure.
Right.
I
Right.
guess you could
That's
say.
a very good point.
Like, there's no choice. They had a choice. I mean, because they were exposed to both sides. I think kids that are raised with religion really don't have a choice because they're indoctrinated pretty young.
Did he ever come home talking about God at all?
He didn't.
Uh-huh.
My older son came home from nursery school one day and told me Jesus loved him, but he didn't know who Jesus was.
Is that the
Very
guy that
happy
cleans our
about that.
car?
He said, Mom, Jesus loves me. Who is he? So that's about the extent of it. I mean,
Is that
You
some
said your
uncle we don't
son
know?
said to you, "Jesus loves you," and then he said, "Who is he?"
well, he didn't, right.
Oh,
Because they
that's
told him in
great.
nursery school, but he didn't know who he was.
That's great.
Okay. But no, we never had. It's sort of atheism it's a contradiction in terms, atheism. Because an ism is a belief in something.
Right.
Being
And-
an atheist means you don't believe in something, so it's a contradiction in terms. I don't think it's an issue whether people are atheists or not. I mean, I wouldn't like campaign for people to become atheists or one way or the other. I think there are more important things to put your mind to than whether somebody believes in God or not.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think the environment is one of those.
I think
things.
the war in Iraq. I think Bush. I think the environment. I think those are important things that will impact the world, and that's what I hope that my kids will focus their energy on.
I'm sure they will.
Right.
I mean, that's where their focus should be, on making, on changing the world, not making people. I mean, that's why I think, I think it's a non-point, atheism. I mean, I don't think it's anything to. I don't think it's a big deal.
Well,
maybe you guys think it's a big deal because you were raised as Christians.
And I think that's a good point
that
too.
Probably is a good point,
I think when you're something all your life,
when you're raised as a Christian, you're throwing something off.
Right.
You're throwing a belief system off, and that's a sort of somewhat of a big deal.
It's funny though, because
I wasn't raised as a Christian, so I never had to throw anything off.
Right.
And my kids weren't, so they didn't have. So it's not an issue.
We also don't do our show just because we're throwing our belief off, but because there's others out there that want to do the same and know that there's a security and it's safe to go ahead and do that.
Right.
I mean, there's people
but what are you doing? You're not doing anything.
What in terms of what do you mean? Well, we're talking to people about
atheists don't do anything.
Although that's not true.
That's not true at all.
Yeah, we do plenty. In terms of believing, we don't believe in a God.
But we consider ourselves free thinkers, and that's where I think the difference is. Although there's not one thing in common with another atheist, except for a lack of belief in a God, it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have like-minded people come together and make a difference in, whether it be the legal system or the government. We still stand for a cause, even if that cause isn't atheism.
And what's the cause exactly?
The cause, I think, would be free thought, the ability to think freely. I think that religion is the number one stampede on that issue, and I think that's an issue that, as a reasonable person, which I think that any person who comes to atheism or comes to the position of atheism would understand is,
of course, after they've already been an atheist at birth.
Right, of course, after reestablishing themselves in a neutral position like that they would understand the importance of free thought and come to actually seek that out. In our government, in our country, it's not a very popular thing to think by yourself, to think for yourself.
It's our hope, Anita, that people that are talking to your son about how much they dislike his position would find our show, and of course not those exact people, but there are tons of people who listen into our show that are like that would realize that there's a reason to drop their waste of time on Sunday, the money that they're spending on an illogical claim, the fact that they're letting their lives be governed by a holy book that was written centuries ago that has no bearing on reality today.
And the most important issue is lying to yourself.
Hey, do you know what the statistics are on religion now?
I know that non-belief is now 16% of the world population, which is now third.
It's growing.
It's third in the world,
right
behind Islam. They just recently overtook Hinduism.
Right.
Yes, it is growing, exactly. And I think that it's people speaking out. I mean, it's going to get to the point where more and more and more people are going to be able to speak out about it. And
I think the problem is that not enough people in the past have come out and done things that we're doing right now. With free thought and trying to get people who doubt their beliefs, didn't before, 7 years ago, have a place really to go to, really seek information out about what they were feeling, what they were going through.
About what not to believe in?
Well, not that. No, not that at all.
Well, no, I think one of the main things we're trying to do is to tell people that do think like this, that they're not alone.
Right.
And,
right.
And honestly, before I got onto the internet and things like that, I pretty much did think I was alone. For a long time, I thought I was
the
only person
that
thought this way. I was the only atheist I knew for wow, how many years? Like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
You know,
And what we have done is we've made a network of people of like minds to come together and discuss things about whatever they want. It doesn't have to be about atheism. Most of the time, it isn't about atheism.
Yeah, most of the time it isn't.
It's about life, okay, but through a reasonable perspective. It's not through rose-colored glasses, which religion tries to impose on people.
When you try to look for the answer to a question, the difference between the three of us and yourself isn't that we refer to a book or a holy book for the answer, but some other form of knowledge, a scientific document or a trusted news source,
or even a friend who has opinions who are similar to ours.
But do you think the majority of Christians in the United States, just sort of everyday people who sometimes go to church and sometimes don't, use that as their basis for decision making on a daily
lot
basis?
of them.
I don't think
it depends.
so.
It depends on what the decision is. But I mean, if you look at certain cases like the fact that it became illegal to marry a gay person in 20-some states.
That's the religious right.
But you know what? That's
our
talking
point.
About.
That's what you're talking about.
Most people, when they have.
That's a minority. I mean, the religious right.
If it's a minority, how did they win? How did they win that? Yeah. How did they win that vote?
The thing is
because
that
they're vocal and political. That's why.
But they also stroke a lot of the people who are Christian in name only.
Right.
Right.
So
the thing is, when
I understand that's to fight that, I think is a noble cause.
The same thing. Abortion would be the same way.
Look at Bush. He's born again.
We have a problem with Bush.
Believers' gut reaction to the abortion issue is that abortion is wrong
because God says so, and that's as far as it goes. And when it comes down to it, people have problems in their daily life. Most of the time, Christians will turn to a pastor or a priest or whoever the religious leader is at that point in time to get information on how to help them with their lives. They won't go to like a psychologist. They won't go to someone.
Because it's free to go to a pastor, and you have to pay for it.
and that's what we're trying to put.
I think the cost is actually a lot higher at a pastor, but.
Mentally, it's
and of course monetarily, 10% of your income, or even more in many cases, and also the time spent. But
what I'm saying is, this is what we're trying to get out here is that they have another revenue, another way to get that information, and that's what Free Thought Media is about. That's what Rational Response Squad is about offering people a rational way to look at things, and not just what your priest tells you, not just what your pastor tells you. Okay, it's not about atheism as much as it is about being free. And what does it mean to be free? It means to be able to use your mind in any way that you see fit. That's not going to hurt another person. And I think
right.
that. That's a very honorable cause to stand for.
Well, I do. I think it's an honorable cause to have a voice other than the religious right.
Right.
It has a stronghold on the country at the moment.
Anita, we've got to wrap up. It was very nice to speak to you.
It's very, very
You've got quite a son there.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
And every right to be proud of him.
Yeah, yes. We're all very proud of him, even though that's not exactly politically correct.
Well, I'm glad, and I think he really enjoyed being on the radio.
And he's an official member of the Rational Response Squad now.
Oh, good. Is he going to get a T-shirt?
Eventually.
Maybe, when we have him made up. Yeah,
when we have him made up, definitely, yeah. I'll send you one, too.
So I guess we'll say goodbye to you right now, Anita, and thanks for coming on.
Sam?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Hold on. Sam! Hello?
All right, Sam.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, man.
Thanks
really
a lot.
Had a lot of good points.
Yeah, I think you'll give some strength to some of the younger kids out there. We're going to get fleet of news articles and kids tomorrow coming in.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to come on your show. I just stopped saying the pledge in my class.
Yeah, hook me up on the next show.
So, anyway.
We'll get Cock on.
Yeah,
Mr. Cock.
Yeah, we should get Mr. Cock on.
I'll give him
by the way, Jeff Cox. You can find him at Jeff Cox, COX 65 at hotmail.com. Give him a piece of your mind. So.
Yeah, let him know what you really think.
Anyway, Sam, it was great having you on, man. Thanks a lot for coming on our show.
Pleasure.
Yep, have a good one, bud.
Take care.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was great, man. That's Sam Smith. I mean, this kid's inspirational.
Incredible 14-year-old kid.
Only 14 years old. I can't get over that.
I can't even call him a kid anymore.
Yeah, he's certainly not a kid.
He's smarter than a lot of adults that I know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, when I was 20, I think I was probably ready to make some of the moves that Sam made. I mean,
right.
6 years ahead of me, and people always tell me that I'm way ahead, of the curve there. So
I think I was roughly about his age when I started.
Really?
So, yeah.
I mean, I was rejecting God at 13. I knew, Noah's Ark, was, helped me realize that the whole thing was full of crap. If an
Right.
all-knowing God existed, how could he possibly not know that he was going to need to wipe off, everybody on the face of the earth at some point?
Yeah, in a few hundred years.
Yeah,
no big
right. Yeah,
deal.
exactly.
Well, I certainly wasn't ready to take a stand like he was at 14.
No.
And
No.
yeah, so he's.
I mean, I went through my entire high school and said the pledge every day, even
Yeah,
not
so
believing
did
in
I.
God.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kids are an inspiration. I hope some of you kids out there, take a stand like this. Make a move.
Yeah, don't
Get in
be
touch with
afraid.
us. Feel free to get in touch with us.
If you feel persecuted, call us.
Yeah, we'll get you on the air. We'll get your story out. Feel free to come aboard our message boards at rationalresponders.com. And in fact, registered users at rationalresponders.com will be able to have access to our download archives. In our download archives, you'll be able to listen to our funny outtake reels
Yes.
There's plenty of them.
There's plenty of them. Yeah.
and music from the various musicians that appear on our show. And additionally, if you are willing to pay $5 for 5 shows, we will get you whatever 5 shows you need from us for $5. You can also purchase our show directly at freethoughtmedia.com at $1.50 per show. So thanks a lot for joining us. Next episode, we will have a Christian named Kim.
Yep.
And another Christian named Reverend Jebediah Oglethorpe.
A bona fide reverend.
Tune
Next week might be the very last episode of the Rational Responders.
in. You never know. We
Yes.
might be. We might be Christians at the end of this.
Christians by the
Yeah,
end
that'll
of
be
that
our first
show.
stab at putting a Christian on the show, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might buckle.
Yeah. We might.
Like a
we
belt.
might buckle like a belt. Yeah. As opposed
So-
to like a shoe.
Thanks a lot for joining us, guys, for another episode of the Rational Response Squad. Like I said, once again, please join us at www.rationalresponders.com. Please support evolvefish.com. And
All of our
also,
affiliates.
also check out our affiliates, freethoughtmedia.com, atheistnetwork.com,